Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's NAC at Home program. My name is Nadine Heidinger, and I'm the Director of Communications at the National Arts Club. For those of you who are not familiar with the National Arts Club, we are a 501c3 based in New York City with a mission to stimulate, foster, and promote public interest in the arts. Annually, we host over 150 free programs, including exhibitions, theatrical and musical performances, lectures, and readings. To find out more about the National Arts Club, you can visit us at nationalartsclub.org, or you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's event, a conversation between Guillaume Kientz, Director and Chief Executive of the Hispanic Society Museum and Library in New York, and Lionel Sauvage. Together, they will discuss Mr. Kientz's commitment to reimagining museums from the Louvre to the Hispanic Society Museum, highlighting the history and collection of the Hispanic Society and the relations and collaborations between both institutions. Guillaume Kientz, Velázquez and El Greco expert, previously served as curator of European art at the Kimball Art Museum in Fort Worth, Texas, and as curator of Spanish and Latin American art at the Musée du Louvre in Paris for 9 years. Lionel Sauvage is a philanthropist and 18th century French art collector based in Los Angeles. He serves on the board of American Friends of the Louvre. And this program is part of a programming series presented in partnership with American Friends of the Louvre. Thank you to everyone involved for making this event possible. Following the conversation will be a brief Q&A, so please feel free to use the Q&A function for any questions you might have. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Guillaume and Lionel. Please enjoy that conversation.
Good afternoon, Guillaume. It's great to have you. We've known each other for quite a few years. I think the first time we met was at the Festival de l'Histoire de l'Art, the Festival of Art History in Fontainebleau in France in 2014. And I think that remember then you were leading a discussion about the museum and how to reinvent the museum. In a cafe, in a small cafe. It was on a cold day, even though it was the month of May. But it was great. We had a great discussion, and I always remember that time. So welcome to that discussion. I'm hoping to get to know you better, but also get to know better that quite amazing institution that I visited with you 4 weeks ago. On my way through New York, and which was frankly a discovery for me. I'm just going to pick a line from the movie In the Heights, which of course you know well. And that line was at the beginning of the movie that a girl who was interviewed and who says, "I have never been north of the 96th Street." And it applies to me, and I suppose to many of us. So anyway, Guillaume, to start maybe to understand you a little bit better, I think you have a very interesting career, even though you're still very young. And in particular, you started at Sciences Po, and Sciences Po for our non-French friends on this call is sort of the Kennedy School of Government. It is not a institution that prepares you to direct a museum. And it's probably fairly unusual for a conservator to have started by schooling at Sciences Po that would rather prepare you to go into the higher administration of the French government. So why Sciences Po, and what did you learn at Sciences Po that applies to your job today?
Well, before I answer your question, I first want to thank you, Lionel, for having me tonight, for having us tonight. I think you're in Paris, right? So it's good evening to you, and good afternoon and good evening to the rest of us here. And I also wanted to thank the National Arts Club and the American Friend of the Louvre to providing this occasion of this discussion. And yes, I didn't start as an art historian. I start by studying political science. Sciences Po could be translated in English into the Institute of Political Studies. It's actually kind of a general and comprehensive formation. One studies law, economy, contemporary history, business. It's all about how the world works. That's a bit the big question this institute tries to answer or to help us answering it.
And then you, after Sciences Po, you went to the Institut National du Patrimoine, which is another French institution, which I think is quite unique, isn't it?
Well, I didn't go from Sciences Po to the Institut National du Patrimoine. You know,
you stopped over in Rome, did you?
Well, yeah. I didn't start as an art historian, but I became an art historian, and I studied first in Strasbourg, and then in Rome, and then in Paris. And the way it works in France is that to become a curator, you have to pass a competitive exam. When I did it in 2006, and I succeeded, and then I entered the Institut National du Patrimoine, which is the French National Institute for of Cultural Heritage, and it's a public institution that trains curators and conservators. So this is the way you join the museum's world if you want to be a curator or a conservator in France.
But with your background at Sciences Po, rather than are you taking more of a less of an object approach to the museum, but more of a people approach to the museum?
Well, let's say that what Sciences Po gave me is a methodology. I think good analytical skills, general knowledge, and some skill to navigate a wide scope of situation. And then at the INP, one takes classes in public administration, business, cultural heritage law, management. So it was for part redundant, but most of the time very complementary. And but it's true that I don't have the usual background for an art historian or a museum curator. You say I have more of a people approach. I'm not sure about that. That's interesting that you see me that way. I think the main difference with my colleagues or some of my colleagues is that I didn't spend much time at the university. I don't know why, but when you have a degree of Sciences Po, you can directly join art history courses on the third year. And so since then, I felt like I was behind the other, and that I needed to catch up very quickly in art history. So I spent a lot of time visiting museums, visiting churches, looking at paintings, which is my passion, and I guess I developed quite an interest for objects actually, and for the field. I like to be on the field. I like to explore. I like to discover, and so since the very beginning, I placed myself as a visitor. So the people approach you mentioned is probably a visitor approach. And when I do an exhibition, even when I write a publication, I always think about the audience. I always make the audience my priority, because as interesting my ideas might be, if they're not received, if they cannot be understood by the widest audience, it's pointless to me, to my view at least. So this would be perhaps what's different in my approach, but many colleagues are the same. You're muted. You're muted.
You really have that. You have that characteristic, I think, compared to other curators, are more object oriented, where where the study of the object is feel that their prime passion for sure, but also their prime responsibility within the museum, which is the object is their prime responsibility as opposed to sometimes the public, as you said. So it's quite interesting. Having said that, you very quickly, through a couple of large exhibitions, you very quickly established yourself as a reputed art historian. So you became an expert. I mean, your first show was Mexico at the Louvre, masterpieces from New Spain. So it's interesting because you really did not have necessarily a background in Spanish studies, as I believe, but very early on you were into the Latin world beyond Spain already.
Yeah, it's a very logical and fast happening kind of process, because when you start studying Spanish art, well, you find yourself very quickly all over the places, because it's all over the world. It's not only the Iberian Peninsula, for sure. It's not only Latin America. It's the US too. Actually, the US as in its history has a large part that is Hispanic connected, but it's also Asia. It's also the Philippines. It's also Goa. So it's really the world, because of the prominent place that Spain had in history. You can find connections, you can find relationships in many cultures, and this is what is incredible with the collection that I'm in charge of now, the Hispanic Society Museum and Library. It's American art, it's French art, it's obviously Spanish art and Latin American art, but it's many different things, and all what they have in common is that they share a moment with the Hispanic culture.
Mm-hmm. And then you, of course, I think one of your in France, certainly what thing we remember you for was the Velázquez exhibition. It was a very large, what we call a blockbuster show. That would be it.
I don't know. It depends on your definition of what blockbuster is. If it's a successful show, yes, it was one, because it was very successful, and we were very happy about that. More than 500,000 visitors came to see it. It was the first time that Velázquez exhibition was held in France, which is incredible and in a way shocking. But well, I'm happy I made it happen. And that was the same thing with El Greco. France never had any major El Greco exhibitions, so I like to open doors, and I was very pleased that I could open doors, and again the response in the public was absolutely enthusiastic. So
and Velázquez is particularly interesting to the Louvre, because the Louvre actually does not own the Velázquez painting.
Yeah, that was my burden for 9 years. It's no more my burden. At the Hispanic Society, we have 3 Velázquez, so we have that covered. But no, you're right, and that explains a lot why a museum like the Louvre never did any exhibition about Velázquez. I guess part was shame, because it would stress out this big lack in the collection, and the other one was knowledge and documentation. The way exhibition used to be done, they would always start from the collection. So you would study a group of works in the collection, then get some external loans to complement your narrative, and that used to be what an exhibition was about. Now we have a different approach of what an exhibition should be or could be, and many museums they do exhibitions about something that they don't have in the collection, so they would provide a new kind of knowledge to their audience, or reach out to more diverse communities.
Yeah, and for the record, I mean, you had around the Velázquez show, you had 2 major books. One was, of course, the catalog of the exhibition, which, by the way, was a fairly large exhibition, because 120 major paintings, a whole. I remember a whole whole group of painting that you call the Velasqueños, the followers of Velázquez, or the students of Velázquez, which was quite a very interesting look at Velázquez and its painting. But in addition to that, you did a major monography on Velázquez, which I don't have here, but it's in Los Angeles. So
you have one.
and that's sort of established you really as a specialist, but not only a specialist within France, but also it opens an enormous amount of doors to you in the Latin world.
Yes. So yes. I mean, I wasn't prepared to become a specialist of Velázquez. It just happened because we decided we would do this exhibition, and I'm a quick learner and hard worker, so I dive deep in Velázquez, and I guess I became one of the specialists. Yes, but I wouldn't like to be considered the specialist of Velázquez. I don't think it's healthy that there is only one person in charge of an artist. I like open conversation. I'm happy to give my opinion about painting by Velázquez. I do appreciate when people reach out to me to show me new paintings or possible paintings by him. In these circumstances, you make few friends, but you mostly make enemies, because you mostly deliver bad news that, to your views, it's not by Velázquez. But again, it's only my view. I think it's an informed one. But art, artist, attribution, it's a complicated matter, and there is place for discussion.
But it really created a lot of it created for you a network also of people in museums, in Latin museums, particularly in Spain. I remember at a subsequent Festival de l'Histoire de l'Art, Art History Festival, I think it was in 2016. The invited country was Spain, and you brought in many of your friends from Spain, from museum curators at museums. Specialists on the Spanish paintings, and of course old master specialists, but also modern and contemporary art specialists. So you really you develop a knowledge, a network of people in the Latin world.
Yeah, but the thing is that France and Spain, they live next to each other, they're neighbor, but at least in the museums world and art history, they don't have that much of a relationship. So I was very pleased that I could build a bridge over the Pyrenees and have French scholars meeting with Spanish scholars and the other way around. And if it's true for France and Spain, it's even truer for France and Portugal. I mean, many people go to Portugal for holidays, and it's beautiful, but they should visit more the museums and realize how an incredible country it is, or an incredible cultural heritage they have. And this is the same thing for Latin America. Well, obviously it's further from France, but when I did this Mexican exhibition, I didn't have a lot of knowledge on the Latin American art before that. When I was working over there, and I did find a Mexican painting in the little church, and I did publish it, but it was just one thing. But then I spent 1 month in Mexico. I traveled extensively, and I met with the people, with the art, with the vibes, and I think this is absolutely key. I don't think you can properly study and do research or do exhibition about a culture, a civilization, if you don't know the countries, if you don't know the people. It's one ensemble, it's one whole thing, and this is what I like immensely in my job, is meeting people and meeting cultures.
And doing those exhibitions, which was probably a very significant event in your life. I mean, we didn't talk much about the El Greco. You mentioned the El Greco, which is of course a very significant show as well, which I believe opened after you left, by the way, I think.
Yes, I was at the Kimball all the time.
Yeah, it was a very, very successful show. What is it to I mean, what those, I would call it blockbuster exhibition, because I think both were blockbusters, certainly.
Yeah, but it depends. Honestly, it depends. I don't like laziness as a general statement. And some big exhibitions with big names, sometimes they're lazy. And I would call that a blockbuster. But if it's an exhibition that is very successful, I call that a great exhibition, not necessarily a blockbuster.
Point taken. A great exhibition. What is it to... The Louvre obviously is a key partner, even though you did not have any Velázquez available at the Louvre. You had many other painters, followers, and Velázquezinos to build your exhibition. What is it to? I mean, was it to work at the Louvre on a large, successful show like that, as an experience?
Well, it's a wide scope of experiences. It's not only one experience. It's really great because you feel like you can make a difference. I always say the Louvre is a game changer. So that means the Louvre has a responsibility. And when you do an exhibition, you cannot disappoint. You have to be as good as the Louvre should be, or try to do your best. So it's very, very high demand, let's say. And then certainly it opens doors. You know, when you're in a known museum, it's more complicated to meet with certain collectors or to get some privileged access to collections, public or private collections, and all that. So the Louvre helps. But sometimes when you go to a museum and you ask for paintings for the exhibition you're preparing, well, they see the Louvre and they say, well, I lend you that if you lend me the Mona Lisa. And this is, you know, this is the limit. The collection of the Louvre, they're incredibly rich, but at the same time, the museum is receiving 9 million visitors every year. It's not possible to empty the Louvre. And as much as the museum wants to be generous in lending, I mean, you know, whatever they can, there is a limit. And I really noticed the difference in other experiences, that you would come to a museum asking for a loan and yeah, absolutely, I lend you this painting. And they don't necessarily ask for a reciprocal loan. When it is the Louvre, you almost all the time got a request for a reciprocal loan, and I understand that. You know, especially for small museums, we need to find a way to survive. It's just a blessing. It's just a serendipity to have a painting coming from the Louvre. Suddenly, people would pay attention to your museum, and they would not necessarily do it without that. So, and that's part of the responsibility of the Louvre, I guess, to help smaller museums to survive and to reach out to their audience.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is. It should be part of the Louvre's responsibility to share if its collection, because it's obviously the largest collections of artifacts in I believe in the world. In, you know, from antiquity all the way to the modern world, painting, sculpture, etc. So it has to be a responsibility of the Louvre to help out on those exhibitions. Now, there's a lot of people are criticizing the world of exhibitions. Some people believe that artifacts should not travel as a matter of protection. And that so museums should not land, and actually some museums do not land, or some land reluctantly. Is that right? Do you share that point of view?
Well, I certainly share the point of view that art should not travel for bad reasons. And then it comes down to what are bad reasons and what are good reasons. And this is why you need good curators and good directors to make sure that they make the right decisions. That sometimes it's important that you let some work traveling and be part of important exhibition. In some other cases, just say no, because it doesn't worth it. It's true that art is fragile. A work of art is actually destroying, because it's like us. It has a lifetime. It's much longer than our, but still, even if you don't move it, it faded, or it get damaged. So we have to be very careful about that. But at the same time, museums are no vaults. They cannot be a tomb of silence. They have to be places where we engage in conversation, and then not only in their walls, they also have to help others to do the same. We're a small community, and I think we're all very committed to helping each other. So yes, I think it's important to land, but it's important to keep in mind that the objects are very fragile. So the exhibition has to be a good one, not a lazy one, and the painting or the sculpture or whatever should be in good condition. One shouldn't put their collection at risk by making them travel too much.
Now, in I believe it is in 2016, there was this movement in France called La Nuit debout, the standing night, and it started with some social unrest about some law that was being discussed in Parliament, but it opened into a fairly benign but large-scale conversation at night or in the evening on Place de la République, which is one of the large square in Paris. And you were part of you were one of those fearless leaders, and developed this concept of musée debout, the standing museum. I think that was bringing the art.
I was no leader. I mean, the story
no leader.
is, I lived in the nearby, and I'm very curious about the world and the time, the society I live in. As I said, I always like to meet people, especially people I would disagree with, because that's the only way to learn and to change and to get better, or to convince others. So I thought, okay, well, they are sitting at night on the Place de la République. It's not a big endeavor for me to go there. I'm living next door. Let's see what they say. They say that they are changing the world, that they are reinventing the world. Well, I feel concerned about that. I live in the world, so I want to know, and I may want to be part of this conversation. So I went there, and I got very sad, because I saw that art was not really present in the conversation, and that museums were definitely nowhere in the conversation. And I believe that museums are a great place where we can change the world, where we can change life. And so I definitely thought that museums should be part of this conversation. So I just tweeted something about, let's do musée debout, and let's have museum be part of the conversation. And a few people joined me, and then we went to the Place de la République. We sat. I brought a copy of the Zurbarán painting that I had home, a very modest thing, but nice and definitely impactful, because it did catch the attention of many on the Place de la République, and we became bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was quite a learning experience to me. I learned so many things during those nights.
And at the end, there were ropes between trees where you would hang photocopies of artworks that people would bring.
Well, it was not at the end. It was since the very beginning, and that proves that you never came. That's not good. No. It's the idea was to manifest the presence of art on the Place de la République, and to raise the awareness of the stakeholders about art, about museum, and what we can do with museums don't side. They're not on, it's all about what you do with them. It's all about what you have them say, and this has to be a larger conversation than the one it is right now. And what struck me the most is that I genuinely thought I would go to the Place de la République and explain to them what is a museum, and explain to them why there are misunderstanding and all that. Well, the reality was that perhaps the only thing I learned there was to listen. And I listened to them, and I heard them, and I was not pleased with what I heard. I was actually very, very sad, even sadder, because people would say, well, I don't go to museum because that's not a place for me, or I don't go to museum because it's not about me. And it's true, and it's not true at the same time. It's true because they say so, and so they feel it, so it must be true. But it's not true because the collections, I mean, they could speak to them, they could connect with them, they just don't. And this is our responsibility. This is our mistake. This is our flaw. And so from then on, I really got convinced that what museums should do now, or should have done, I mean, since a long time ago, actually, is to listen, is to bring more voices in the conversation. To the conversation is to bring new faces, new kind of backgrounds, because that's the only way that we would become again what museums were, or that museums would become again that what they were supposed to be, which is universal place, or place of universality. It cannot be, a museum cannot be universal if the people telling the stories don't reflect the reality of the society. I mean, it's even with the best intention, it just cannot happen. It's like 1 + 1 make 2, you know. So
that gets us right straight to actually today at the Hispanic Society Museum and Library. But before that, I ask you of something that you would take from the Louvre on the deserted island. So, and maybe
nothing, because the desert island is not necessarily the right place for a work of art to be, except if it's Abu Dhabi, and the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, which is an island with a great facility. But nothing also because museum collections, they don't belong to curators or directors. They belong to the nation, they belong to the community, they belong to whoever go to see it, whoever makes the effort to go to see it. So I wouldn't take anything from the Louvre.
But then something obviously switched your mind into art history. Something, there was a click one day on some work of art. I mean, it happened to all of us, I suppose. So what was that one?
You asked me this question, and I'm happy to share my screen and show you probably what was the trigger. Do you see the screen?
Yep.
Good. So yes, when I was young, and then when I visited the Louvre with my parents, I got struck by this painting. It's a Pietà, as you can see, by Enguerrand Carton, and it's definitely my favorite painting, not only in the Louvre but in the world. The finding of its author was an incredible investigation. It's actually the great achievement of one man, Charles Sterling, who was curator at the Louvre, and guess what? He moved to the US too at some point and worked at the Met. And I don't know, since I saw it, I have been touched and moved because of the iconography, obviously, because of the image. I mean, it's about a mother with the dead body of her son on her lip, and so it's quite a moving and dramatic image. But also, I was moved by the style. Because the artist Enguerrand Carton, he was from the north and he moved to south, to Avignon. So he was between two cultures. He had a let's say bicultural background at the end, and I really like that. I guess I can relate to that myself too. And lastly, what moves me in this painting, it's the two large cracks that you see horizontally that divide the painting, and to me there is something very moving again, like it's the panel is cracked, is broken, just like the body of Christ is broken. And as I started looking at the painting as an image, I grew, I guess, as a junior curator that I was not yet at the time. I moved I started to see the crack, and I started to see the object, not only the image, but the object. And then the sorrow of Christ, the sorrow of the Virgin became the sorrow of the painting. And something that developed in me, something grew in me, and was the desire, the drive to protect it. I wanted suddenly to protect it. I wanted to keep it safe and to make sure that it would pass to other generations that could feel the same kind of emotion, or totally different emotions. So I guess this is why, or perhaps when I decided to become a curator, because I wanted to protect things so they could give emotion to many, they could inspire, they could still, impact us, and that's the only way old master painting can stay alive, because they're speaking to us not yesterday, they're speaking to us today. So this is what I thought admirable in this painting, and
it's quite a remarkable painting. And I'm wondering, when you first there at the Louvre as a curator, did you go there and took it off the wall and look at the crack from behind and see whether someone had done the job to consolidate the panel? And
No. I did trust my colleagues, and I knew the painting was taken good care of.
Yeah. Now, tell us a bit about the Hispanic Society. I mean, I think you prepared, and maybe you can show us a little bit of picture, because I'm sure many of us on the call are like me. They've never been north of the 96th Street, and it's quite a remarkable history first, and building second.
Well, the Hispanic Society is located much further than 96th Street. It's 155th Street on Broadway, and it's a remarkable institution. It was created and funded by Arthur M. Huntington, the son of the railroad tycoon, and he was passionate about Hispanic art and Hispanic cultures, not only Spain but also Latin America and Philippines. And well, he was a compulsive collector. He assembled a very important collection of books, paintings, both from living artists and old masters, sculptures, drawing, textiles, photographs. We have more than 150,000 photographs in the collection, for instance. And he decided to install the collection on this campus on Audubon Terrace. He bought the land, he built the museum, 2 buildings actually, and over time we acquired another building. And he also gave the money to other institutions to develop the terrace all around. So that's when the adventure started back in 1904. And since then, the collection has developed incredibly, opening up to many different and new cultures. Some were overlooked in the past, some were not that well represented. So they've been doing an amazing job in making the panorama this museum can provide very complete. I show you here some of the images of works in the collection, and it shows you the scope of the collection. So it's not only painting, prints, drawings, decorative art, photographs, books, maps, globes, archaeological material, and coming from all over the place, and dealing with many different cultures. All what they have in common is that the people there, they speak Spanish or Portuguese, or they spoke Spanish or Portuguese at some point, and this is what they have in common.
Now, the Hispanic Society is actually much more than a museum. I mean, it is also a place in a neighborhood which is it's very important to the museum itself.
No, yeah, absolutely. The reason why Huntington decided the Hispanic Society would happen up there between 155th and 156th is because that was the last stop of the first subway line in New York City. And again, he was a railroad guy, so he did trust rail. And over time, the neighborhood changed incredibly. And you know, it's an incredible, lively, active, dynamic neighborhood. And yeah, with the community made of Puerto Rican, Dominican people mostly, and so it creates a very nice context for this collection. But the collection is not necessarily the best way this museum can engage with the community. I think it's also education that is key for us to engage with the community, and it's also, you know, letting the community coming to us, being ready to welcome their initiatives, being ready to foster collaborations. And this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing right now. Actually, we're having two exhibitions at the Hispanic Society, one about In the Heights, the movie, and one about the Latinx diaspora in urban Manhattan. And both of them we do with NOMA. It's a local nonprofit, the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. And we're very happy because it marks the reopening of the museum. We're going to reopen progressively, and it had to start with the community. It has to start with a conversation with in the community and about the community. So we're very happy about that.
So is that the sort of the blank slate that you dreamed of when you were talking about the role of the museum in society? Because there you go. You have a museum, a building, a collection, and you have a community around it. So that's exactly what you were looking for. How are you gonna really get the two to get together more closely? Because that's essential, I suppose, for the life of this museum.
No, you're totally right. To me, it's a great opportunity to make things happen, to make things what I believe in happen. But it's not about me. It's definitely not about me. It's about the community and it's about the collection. And so, if it's a blank canvas or a blank slate, it's going to be a collective masterpiece. And I want to engage in conversation as much as we can, and we will do a lot. The way I see it is that we have a first rank quality collection, and this collection is an incredibly asset for New York City and for the neighborhood. But it's not enough. There are two ways we can serve our community. One is by doing more on the education side, and community program is by welcoming more their initiatives, being more at their disposal. We have an incredible, let me show you some picture. We have an incredible, many incredible terraces actually, and those spaces are fantastic for community programs. They are, you know, they're like forum or agora. This is where the conversation can start and should start, and then the museums happen later on and quite naturally. So yes, I think the one way is education, and that's a good way to serve our community and welcome their initiatives. The other way is to you know, bring attractivity to In the Heights. Well, no, with the movie In the Heights, there suddenly everyone is realizing that this neighborhood exists, and they ask themselves where it is, and they take the subway and they come visit and they will see us. But we can definitely help the neighborhood to develop in a good way. It's not about losing their soul. It's about making it visible. You know, this is the big thing: visibility, invisibility. We can help this neighborhood to be more visible, to be more much more on the map, and that would happen thanks to our collection and to the great exhibition that we we will be able to do now, because since last week we now have a special exhibition gallery that is ready to welcome exhibitions. So it's a big change for the institution.
Yeah. I was thinking when I was preparing this discussion about the name Hispanic Society Museum and Library. It's like a mouthful. You would want to have the word Latino in the name rather than Hispanic, maybe. Museum and library is a bit stuffy. It's a cultural place. It's a place of culture. I don't know. Do you ever think that you would want to not change the name? You're probably not allowed to, but had another description for it.
Well, there were endless conversation about changing the name or not changing the name. I don't think the name is the issue. Actually, Hispanic is quite inclusive, because it's not only Latin America, which Latino or Latinx would be about. It's also about Goa, Philippines, and the Iberian Peninsula. But I think what matters is what we do, is the good that we do, more than the name. If you think the name is the issue, that means that there is a more serious issue that you don't want to address. And I'm not saying we don't have issue. We had issue in the past. We've worked on them, and we're doing better, and we will do better in the future. So let's see what people call us. I mean, it can be the Hispanic, it can be the museum and library, it can be the HISP, it can be the H. I mean, what I want is people to take ownership and to feel like the Hispanic Society Museum and Library is their home. And then you will see that the name doesn't matter. If we do good, if we prove helpful, useful, if we serve our community and our mission statement, no one will pay attention to the name. Look at the Louvre. It doesn't mean a thing. I mean, no one knows what the Louvre means, and still, it's the most famous museum in the world. So you see,
it's actually the Louvre means, I believe it's an old French word for swamp, because essentially it was built on a swamp.
Well, there are many different theories, but anyway.
And you already had, I think, on site probably one of your ambassadors, maybe one of your best ambassadors, Lin Manuel Miranda, came in for a gala a few weeks ago, and I suppose he, like I did, like you did maybe a year ago, discovered the place because it was a bit of the sleeping beauty in the neighborhood. What was his reaction to the place, the museum, the plaza, as you show it on these images?
Well, I wasn't there when he came, so and I must confess that I haven't met him in person. I've met with his father several times. Luis Miranda is a great guy, a big activist in Upper Manhattan, and he's doing a lot. He's the chair of the Northern Manhattan's Art Alliance we are working with, and we already had a great discussion about the Hispanic Society Museum and Library and all what we could do together up there. And so I think, and the proof is that when they were with Lin giving interviews in the Heights, one of the interviews took place in the Soria Gallery at the Hispanic Society. So they feel home, and they write because they are home, and we are only here to open the door and to make the magic happen. So, and in the Heights is definitely some magic that has happened and is happening. Have you watched the movie yet?
I watched part of it. I'm sorry, I'm in Paris, and I only can watch what is on YouTube. So, but I'll soon be on it. I mean, it's
Well, I encourage everyone listening to us, watching us, to go see the movie when they can. It's not only a feel-good movie; it's always a very impactful movie. It tells a lot, and everyone has to listen to that and to enjoy it.
And it's so important for the neighborhood. it's a neighborhood movie. I mean, clearly it is a neighborhood movie. I suppose you know the neighborhood now quite well because you live there. You can recognize the shops and the maybe even the people in the neighborhood. It's really certainly the streets. It's a really a great.
You're right, but it also goes beyond because it tackles universal topics about, you know, not losing one's soul, moving, thriving, nostalgic, and all that. So it's I think many people can relate to this movie, and yes, it speaks about the neighborhood and the community and the block, as they call it in the movies. So it's no, it's absolutely great.
Yeah. Hey, Guillaume, I think we should open up for questions. I see there's quite a few questions, and we're running out of time for this great conversation. So I don't know, maybe Nadine, you want to give us some questions?
Absolutely. And the movie is definitely on my to-watch list. So let's see, quite a few questions. Let's see if we can get to a few of them. Specifically about the museum, Elizabeth is clearly in the know, and she would like to know if the print room is open for visitors, classes, tours, or by appointment.
Okay, so we're still navigating COVID and the CDC guidelines, but we can do by appointment. So not necessarily for big groups, and I guess this person is referring to the reading room. So depending on what is the matter, the need, we'll do our best to accommodate it. So she should not hesitate to reach out.
Perfect. Anna would like to know, how did you realize that your career was not in political science, but in the art world?
Oh, very early on, because it was very boring to study political science. I mean, I learned a lot, and I did appreciate my first courses, but you know, it's a kind of a fun story. I was to join a friend. He was attending a class of art history at the university, and I was in Ireland, so I said, okay, well, I was earlier, so I said, yeah, I'm going to join the class and see what it is. I mean, you know, what could happen to me? I could learn something. That's always good. And then it was before, you know, it was a long time ago. It was 20 years ago. So the room, the class became dark, and we were looking at the screen, and we were looking at images one after the other. And I said, oh my God, is that the university? I mean, because Sciences Po is not a university, so I was not used to that. I mean, is that something that is being taught? Is that something that I don't know? I was totally overwhelmed by this kind of knowledge, and I said, okay, well, this is what I want to do. I don't want to spend all my times in the library studying political science. I want to look at the screen in the dark and to enjoy myself. Well, then I discovered that library actually it takes a large part in art history studies too. But yeah, that was the eyes opener.
I think we all can agree on our love for art here. Karina would like to know, well, she thanks you for your work and being so for your inclusive approach. And what exhibitions are you planning now? And is there anything including sculpture?
Well, on your screen, you have a murals exhibition that we have on the terrace right now until August the 15th. It's about the Latinx diaspora in Upper Manhattan. And inside, we have the In the Heights movie with photographs of the play, the musical, and the movie. We are working on a sculpture exhibition actually in the fall, so that should happen by mid-September. But in September, additionally, we will show our incredible collection of rare books and manuscripts at the Grolier Club in New York City, and we also present in many different places in the world where we are partnering with other institutions to do exhibition with them, or we're very generously lending our collections to venues. So the Hispanic Society is based in New York, rooted in Washington Heights, but present all over the world.
That's great. So that goes along another question by a viewer who is saying that the Hispanic Society has not always been known as a generous lender to exhibitions. So clearly this will change under your leadership.
It has changed already. You know, for my El Greco exhibition and my Velázquez exhibition, the Hispanic Society has always been a very generous lender. But it is true that in the past, they were more conservative about loans.
Another viewer would like to know, Mickey would like to know that after Velázquez and El Greco, who is an artist of great interest to you, and has that changed after being exposed to New York City?
Well, I must say that next year I'm going to do a Murillo exhibition at the Kimball Art Museum. It is something that I started before I left, so I have to finish that. And I love Goya, for instance, and I like to do an exhibition about Goya. We have started some discussion already. I'm big fan of Campeche, this artist from Puerto Rico, and I'd like to see an exhibition about Campeche. I like Pedro Holguin is from Colombia and is from 17th century. Late 17th century Colombia. So I'd like to see an exhibition about these artists too, but I am no more a curator. I am a director. So I don't want to be the kind of director that does all the exhibitions. So it's I want to help my curators to have what they want to do happen. And I was very lucky as a curator. I could do a lot of things. I'm very grateful to my former directors. And so no, it's my turn to be the helping director.
Right. And along those lines, wearing the director hat, Jonathan would like to know if you could expand a bit on the museum expansion project.
Sure. So we have started our reopening process. So this year we have reopened our first ever exhibition gallery in the East Building. Let me, go back to it doesn't show. I don't know. It doesn't appear. So let's go. Yeah. So the East Building is the one on the left. So we have reopened our first ever exhibition gallery in the East Building. The idea is to continue renovating the East Building. So we would have 2 other floors for special exhibition, and then we have the main building, which is the one on the right for the permanent collection. And I'd like to make the terrace ADA accessible as soon as possible, hopefully by the winter, so we can give access to the Soria Gallery, which is already fully renovated, and then to the main court, and eventually, ultimately, to the main building. And then we have the third building, which is the one on the left, which will be the library. So it's, we are reopening. It's going to be a long process. I mean, I'd like to go as fast as we can. We had starting a very ambitious and active fundraising campaign, and I invite every generous member of this audience to help us if they can, or to reach out to me for more information about that. But it's a fantastic adventure, and this is why I joined the Hispanic Society Museum. I mean, it's really like there is this collection, this incredible collection. There are those incredible buildings. It's all there. Few people know about it, so it's about unveiling an incredible secret, which shouldn't be a secret. We shouldn't have been a secret, and yes, so I think it's the US, it's New York City, it's the country and the city of philanthropy. So we'll find the money. It's about 200 million, but we'll find the money, and we will make this happen because it's so important for the community. It's so important for New York City. It's so important for Hispanic art. It's so important for the world. I mean, we cannot have those works sleeping in the museum. As I said, it cannot be a tomb of silence. It has to be a place of conversation. So we will make it happen. And please help us. We're making history here. There are many causes in the world. There are many museums in New York City, and at the Hispanic Society, I mean, everyone's commitment, everyone's support can't make a difference. And it shows very fast because we have to do everything. And I guess this is why I moved to the Hispanic Society. It's because I was very happy at the Kimball, I was very happy at the Louvre before, but here I can make a difference. Here, my energy can be, can serve very efficiently a noble cause.
I can vouch for that. Guillaume has a lot of energy.
It's hard to tell. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think this is the perfect way to close out our event. Yes, please. If it can happen anywhere, it can happen in New York, right?
Absolutely. Or New York is not New York anymore. And so New Yorker, we're waiting for you. That's right. So HispanicSociety.org for those donations. And you definitely have friends at the National Arts Club. Me and my colleagues are very much looking forward to coming to visit you. 155th Street, we can manage that for sure. And hopefully working on a couple more collaborations. So something. We are 20 minutes from Columbus Circle, I think. Many people can manage that.
Yeah, I think we'll even walk.
Well.
So thank you so much, Guillaume and Lionel, for this truly wonderful conversation. Thank you so much to the American Friends of the Louvre for making it all possible. And again, if any upcoming events, please go to nationalartsclub.org. And again, HispanicSociety.org for those donations. And I love the website too. So lots of great things happening for sure. Thank you again. And please enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you soon in person, I hope.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a great day or night.
Bye, Nadine. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.